Okay, everyone, welcome back to another evening of the weekly Parsha. And we're holding in PARSHAS VAYISHLACH. And this Parsha always reminds me of a story which took place over 20 years ago. I have a cousin that was being bar mitzvahed. And my cousin was not a relatively religious person. And he was being bar mitzvahed in either it was a reformed or a conservative, I think it was a reformed temple. I asked the Shaila to one of the big Gedolei Yisrael of our generation if I should go, I should not go. And he told me, go. It sounded like he was very interested actually to know what exactly is going on in a bar mitzvah in a reformed temple. So we got there. First of all, the bar mitzvah was called for the afternoon. It wasn't in the morning time, so it was the afternoon. And we arrived, and the sun was still out. And for some reason, they began the entire bar mitzvah by making Havdalah while it was still Shabbos. And then after they made Havdalah, they pulled out a shofar about this long, then they blew the shofar. And then there was some kind of incantations that were going on. And after all of that, the bar mitzvah boy got up to give his bar mitzvah drasha on PARSHAS VAYISHLACH. And he told over the famous story in this week's Parsha. It is the showdown of Yaakov Avinu and Esav after over 20 years that they didn't see each other. And of course, we know that the last time that they were with each other's company, Yaakov had just stolen the brachos from Esav. And now his mother and father told him, run for your life. Esav is angry and upset that he's out to get you. Run for your life and go to Padan Aram, go find a wife for yourself. So Yaakov Avinu is on the run. Esav is in hot pursuit. He sends his son Eliphaz to go and get him. In the end, he catches him and Yaakov pushes him off. And Yaakov goes somewhere into freedom in the Padan Aram. But now the news is coming that Esav, Achi, your brother, the one that tried to kill you, wants to kill you, he's on his way to come and visit you and to see you. Now you have to understand that Esav has spent the last 20 years of his life dreaming of that moment when he's going to get his hands wrapped around the neck of Yaakov Avinu and strangle him to death for everything that he did for him. He tricked him, he duped him, he stole the brachos, and Esav got almost nothing. Esav is the Ish Sada, the man in the field. He's out there looting and he's pillaging and he's raping women and he's killing people. He's not what you would call a very friendly, warm, and compassionate soul. And yet, Esav and Yaakov have the showdown after 20 years. And the Torah tells us the following words. V'yoratz Esav likrasai. Esav ran to go and greet Yaakov Avinu. V'yechabkehu, and he hugged him. Vayipol al tzavoroi, and he fell on his neck. So this is all Esav. Vayishakehu, and then he kissed him. Esav kissed Yaakov. Vayivku, and they cried. Says the Torah, a very fascinating episode which we would not expect to see. Esav has been dreaming about killing his brother for all of these years. He walks into Padan Aram and he sees Yaakov Avinu together with his wives, 4 wives, 12 children, tremendous livestock and cattle, riches and wealth. Yaakov is sending matonis, he's sending him gifts and presents. He's bowing down in great submission and humility. And Esav is so overwhelmed by the scene that is there. Suddenly the mean, tyrannical Esav, who kills and destroys and is waiting to destroy Yaakov Avinu, what does he do? The opposite of what we thought. He hugs his brother. He falls on his brother's neck. He kisses him, and then Vayivku, and then they cry together. What is going on over here? So the bar mitzvah boy said over the following words. It says on the word Vayishakehu, there's ... over the word Vayishakehu, and he kissed him. And he quoted Rashi, which was itself a chiddush. Yeah, the bar mitzvah boy from Temple Beth El ends up, or Beth Am, whichever one it was, ends up quoting Rashi in his bar mitzvah drasha. And he said like this, Nokud alav, there are dots over the word Vayishakehu that Esav kissed Yaakov. V'yesh chokin, and he said there is an argument amongst the sages. What do those dots mean over the word? B'davar hazeh b'braisa the sifri yesh darsha. There are those who say nekuda zu loy marsha loy nashku b'chalibai. It's coming to teach you that Esav certainly did not kiss Yaakov Avinu with all of his heart. He was angry, he was upset. However, it's his brother. He sees everything his brother's going to do, so he decided that he's going to kiss him. But you should know that it wasn't with all of his heart. There's still some anger, there's still some pain, there's frustration, and really deep down he wants to kill him. He's not giving in completely. However, Amar Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, Shimon ben Yochai said over the following: Halachi b'yedua. Halachi, it's a halacha, which means this is a law in the Torah itself. Just like there's a halacha that says if you want to eat bread, you have to wash the netilas yadayim. Just like there's a halacha that says after you use the restroom, you have to make asher yatzar. There's a halacha that says when it comes to Shabbos Kodesh, so you're not allowed to light a fire. That's all halacha. It's black and white. There's no way around it. There's a black and white halacha, says Rav Shimon bar Yochai, b'yadua she'esav seina leYaakov. Esav hates Yaakov Avinu. He hates him. He despises him. He wants to kill him. Ella, what was happening in this moment? If Esav hates Yaakov so much, then we would expect him to throw the swords and throw the arrows at him and kill him. However, shenimcharu rachama ba'osaipam. At this moment, his mercy was welled up inside of him, and he controlled his anger. V'nashku b'chaylibai, and he kissed Yaakov with all of his heart. Machlekes. One opinion in Chazal says he did not kiss him with all of his heart. The other opinion is that Esav became such a merciful person at this moment. He saw his brother Yaakov. He could not control himself. He grabbed him, he hugged him, and he kissed him with all of his heart. Vayivchu, and they cried together. Said my cousin at his bar mitzvah in front of the entire congregation, I would like to think that the second opinion in Chazal and the sages is the true opinion. The opinion of Shimon bar Yochai that says that Esav was filled with rachamim, with mercy, and he kissed him with all of his heart. And then he said, as to give himself some chizuk as the bar mitzvah boy, he said, and in my life, I hope that I could be more like Esav. The message of a bar mitzvah boy to himself. Now, I was sitting there with a cousin of mine from Bnei Brak, and we looked at each other and we said, did he really just say what we think that he said? It's his bar mitzvah, and you have a choice to be more like Esav or like Yaakov, and you want to be more like Esav. And I laughed about this story for the last 20 years. And I've told over this story probably 1,000 times, many times during PARSHAS VAYISHLACH, because it's hard to forget this story. But this year, as I was going through the Parsha, and I was going through the Mefarshim on this pasuk over here, I'm not going to say that my cousin was right. We should not want to be more like Esav. But there's a very, very deep thing that is going on over here in this parsha, and it's really an amazing, amazing thing that we see between Yaakov and between Esav, and it's a lesson la'olam va'ed, forever and forever, that we have to take. Esav, as we pointed out, Rasha Merusha, and yet we know, as we spoke about in the Shabbos Drasha a couple of weeks ago, the Torah tells us V'yahev Yaakov Yitzchak es Esav. Yitzchak loved Esav. You love Esav? The boy is born hairy. He is born red. He's a hunter. He's out in the field. He's killing. He's pillaging. He's raping. How could you love such a boy? So the Slonim Rebbe Zatzal, the great Nesiva Shalom, said over the following idea. What was the mission that Esav was supposed to accomplish here in this world? Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu put him? He's the Ish Sada, the man of the field. He's got all of these tendencies to go cause damage and anger and this and that. And what was his mission? He was doomed to be an awful child. He was doomed to be a wicked person. No, says the Nesiv Shalom, not true. Ish Sada, the man of the field, means that if Esav would have recognized the koichos, the powers that Hashem gave him, if Esav would have seen what his challenges were and he would have realized, I'm a very earthy person. It's not a coincidence that I am red and hairy from birth. Hashem made me that way. He gave me a tendency towards the field, towards hunting, towards violence, towards blood. Why did Hashem do all of that? Says the Nesiv Shalom, you know why? Because the message that Esav was supposed to get is, Yaakov Avinu is Ishtam Yoshe B'Ha'olim. He sits in the tents of study and he learns Torah all day long. That's amazing. But Esav, you have a different task in life. And your task is, you're going to go into the world. You're going to go into the field. You're going to take your desires and you're going to learn how to control them. And you're going to elevate the physical world and manifest it into a life of ruchnius, of kedusha, of tahara, of making the physical world something a better place than it is if left to its own devices. That is what Esav was supposed to accomplish in his life, and that is why Yitzchak loved his son so much. Esav was a bad person, not because he had no chance at life of becoming better, not because he was doomed to be a rasha, doomed to be a wicked person, but rather Esav became a rasha because he did not acknowledge and see what he could have accomplished in his life. Says Rav Hirsch, there's a moment of truth when Yaakov and Esav meet each other for the first time after all of these years. Remember, as we pointed out in the beginning, Esav is dreaming of murdering his brother Yaakov. He wants to know what it's going to feel like with his hands around his neck, what it's going to feel like to feel the dagger go into his heart. He's waiting and waiting and waiting. But suddenly, Esav, the man of the field, the man that is red, the man that is hairy, the man that has just lived his entire life in insidious sins and the like, he sees his brother and he wells up with feeling, with emotion, with compassion, with love, with understanding, accepting the din that took place 20 years ago that his brother stole the brachas, and he's no longer going to be angry with him. And he runs and he hugs him and he kisses him, Vayivchu, and they cry. Says Rav Hirsch, what is going on over here? What is this change of heart of Esav HaRasha? And he says something amazing. He says, when you meet a person and you see them, maybe first time you're meeting them, maybe you haven't seen them in a while, and you give them a hug and a kiss, that could all be contrived. You're a nice person. You want to be warm to the person. You want to hug them. You want to kiss them on the cheek over there. You want to let them know that you care about them. Fine. But you know what? It doesn't show the great love and the emotion and the feeling per se that you might have. On the other hand, says Rav Hirsch, if you are brought to tears and you are crying on the neck of your brother Yaakov Avinu, and you are weeping the tears, I don't know if they are joy or they are tears of regret or they are tears of what it means that two brothers come back together after all of these years apart. If your neshama begins crying in that way, says Rav Hirsch, tears you cannot fake. Tears are coming from a very deep place inside of your soul. And Esav HaRasha, at that moment, he's not Esav HaRasha. He is Zera, Avraham, Yitzchak. He is the offspring of Avraham Avinu, was the Zayda, was his grandfather, and Yitzchak was his father. And the fact that you have a boy that's standing in front of his brother that he dreamt about killing all these years, and suddenly he's crying, it shows you that underneath the surface, the veneer, the tough exterior of Esav, Harasha Ish Hasada, the man of the field who hunts and he kills, there's a beautiful, delicate, gentle soul that just doesn't allow itself to appear very often. And therefore, says Rav Hirsch, you should know that at this moment, Esav showed his true colors. He's not red and he's not hairy. That's what it looks like in the external, in the physical world. But the essence of Esav being the grandson of Avraham Avinu and the son of Yitzchak, the essence, what's in the heart, what's in the soul, which the Torah reveals to us at this moment is Esav too has a human side. Esav too has a compassionate side. Esav too has an understanding and a forgiving and a regretful side. And Esav himself, it can be a kind-hearted, loving, spiritual, soulful individual. This is the life of Esav. Sadly, he only had it once in a while. He wasn't able to channel all of those energies the way that he could have to make himself into the tzaddik that he could have become. As Rav Hirsch himself writes earlier, it's possible that Esav would have become even a bigger tzaddik than a Yaakov Avinu because of all of his challenges that he had to overcome. But at least over here, in the showdown, when he was about to kill him, we see the true colors of Esav, not the Rasha, but Zera Avraham, the offspring of Avram and of Yitzchak, someone that has a soul and a heart and an understanding of the things that are truly important and meaningful in life. I heard a story that is told over by Rav Zechariah Wallerstein Zatzal. And Rabbi Wallerstein was a Rebbe in a yeshiva many years ago. I think it was called Crown Heights Yeshiva. And it was a yeshiva for boys that if they were not in this yeshiva, they would all be on the streets. And so the last ditch hope that they had for any of these boys was get them into this yeshiva, let them learn with the Rebbeim. Hopefully they'll inspire them and set them on the path for the future. And they'll end up going off to another yeshiva. They'll go there to Israel. They'll learn and they'll stay religious and frum Jews. There was a boy now Rabbi Wallerstein taught 8th grade. There's a boy in this yeshiva who was in 6th grade at the time. His name was Howard. And Howie was a troublemaker. She'ein kamo, you cannot imagine what a vildachaya, what a wild kid this boy was. He was a troublemaker par excellence. And he was driving his teachers and the hanhola and the staff crazy. By the end of 6th grade, they said, there's no way that this kid is staying in our school. He's just wild. He's driving everybody nuts. He doesn't pay attention. He does things behind our back. He causes damages. He can't stay anymore. He's a troublemaker. We can't have him anymore. Rabbi Wallerstein said, no, just give him a chance. 2 more years, he's going to be in my class. I could probably take care of him. It's too late. 2 years, we cannot wait. Got to get him out of here. And they kicked him out of school in 6th grade. And this boy, when you get kicked out of this school, there's no place else to go except for the streets. You end up with the wrong friends. You end up with the wrong people. And this guy ended up falling into the world of Buddhism, and he became a Buddhist. Now, this guy, Howie had a brother that was in the yeshiva that actually made it through the system, and his name was Scott. And Scott graduated. He never became frum, but he remained a Jew, and he was marrying a Jew. And when Scott was getting married, of course, he invited all of his Rebbeim, and he was close to Rabbi Wallerstein. He invited Rabbi Wallerstein. Now, he said the way that it worked was all these kids, they were not really so religious. They were getting married, and the extent of the kashrus of the wedding was going to be the ksuba and the brachas under the chuppah. And after the chuppah was over, they would come in for the dance, and they would do what was called the Hava Nagila dance. The Hava Nagila dance, as you can all imagine, is the only one Jewish song they would play at this wedding was Hava Nagila. Today I was at Kaiser for lunch and learn, and there's a guy with a red, what do you call these hats? So yeah, the Crocs was what? No. The Xmas hats. Yeah, the stocking red hat, and he's sitting there playing. He's playing Christmas carols on the piano, and I walk in, and he sees me. He says, "Oh, Hava Nagila," and the guy's Israeli, and he starts singing Hava Nagila with me. So this is the Hava Nagila dance. And what would they do? They would get all the rebbeim in the middle. They would dance with the chassan, with the young man that just got married. It would last about 3 minutes, and then the song is over, and then it's Dirty Dancing 2.0 in this place. And that's it. And that's the way that every wedding worked. You got the Hava Nagila dance, fine. So he goes to Scott's wedding. Scott is the brother of Howie. And after the chuppah is over, Rabbi Wallerstein is sitting at the table waiting for the music of Hava Nagila to start. And suddenly sits down this young man and a woman who is not dressed very appropriately. And the two of them are sitting there and they're behaving inappropriately right in front of Rabbi Wallerstein. And he looks and he sees it is Howie and it's this young lady. And Howie's got tattoos on his arm. He has Buddha tattoos on both of his arms. He's got tattoos in his neck. He is a Buddhist, and this girl got Buddha tattoos on her. She's Mrs. Buddha. And the two of them are there in front of Rabbi Wallerstein acting very inappropriately. And Rabbi Wallerstein said it was just to get him upset. And he had a lot of choice words he wanted to say. He said, but you know what? I kept my mouth quiet. I didn't say a word. And suddenly they hear, bam, bam, ba, na, 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 na. Yes, Hava Nagila is starting. And Rabbi Wallerstein says, I realize that it's now or never with this kid. And he walks over to Howie and he says, Howie, how about dancing with your Rebbe? And he looks at him. And the Buddha girl says, why not? Go ahead, go dance with your rabbi. So he grabs this guy into the dance circle, and they're dancing in the middle. And Rabbi Wallerstein says, please, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, give me the right words to say right now. This is now or never. And he reaches in to Howie, and he gives him a big kiss on his right cheek, and he says, Howie, I want you to know, I love you the way you are. I don't care, Buddha, no Buddha, tattoos, long hair, doesn't bother me. And if I would have had to say in your history in school, I never would have thrown you out of that school. Wow, they start dancing again. And now Rabbi Wallerstein leans in and he kisses him on the left cheek and he says, but Howie, you got to know, you're going to Gehenna. What? What? Rebbe, why? He says, Buddha, you believe in this stuff? You Buddha, this girl over here, you got tattoos all over yourself, you're going to Gehenna, I'm sorry to tell you. So the guy starts getting really upset. How dare you say that? You don't know what Buddha is, you have no idea what it is, you only know your Judaism, you know my religion. So Austin starts making some jokes, and the more jokes he makes, the angrier this guy gets. And he says, listen, Howie, Thursday nights, I have what's called a chabura. I have a group of guys, we come, we learn together. I'll tell you what, you want to come Thursday night? I'll give you the floor. You could end up teaching us what Buddhism and what the Buddha is all about. Okay, you can teach us. Deal? He says, yeah, I'll be there. Thursday night comes, the chabur is going on. Howie walks in, Buddha tattoos over here, everywhere. And he says, oh, okay, Rabbi say, here's Howie, he's going to teach us what it means to be a Buddhist. And he gets up and he starts giving a whole dissertation on what Buddhism is about. And Rabbi Wallerstein said to this misfortune, which he did not know, I happen to be very well read on Buddhism. And I did extra reading before he came just so I would know what's going on. And I tore him to shreds. I showed him how it's so ridiculous and why it doesn't make any sense, and how you could believe a guy that's got a big belly like this, never lost a pound in his life. He has no self-control. How can you believe in such a thing? And I destroyed him. And I said, Howie, this week was your chance. Next week, you come, you hear what I have to say about Judaism. And he comes the next week. And Rabbi Wallerstein goes on to a beautiful drasha about what Yiddishkeit is all about. Tells him about the Torah, about the mitzvahs, about Torah Sheba'al Peh, Har Sinai. And at the end, how he is sitting there, he never realized what Judaism is all about. And Rabbi Wallerstein realizes the kid is now getting his fires on. The spark of that neshama is coming alive. I got to get him away from Mrs. Buddha, because there's no way that he's going to be able to become a frum Yid if he's going to be around her. So he said, you know what, Howie? Next week is Rosh Hashanah. I'm going to Eretz Yisrael. I always go Eretz Yisrael. Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. I have a great idea. Come with me. Come with me. I'll get you a ticket. You come with me. He schleps into Eretz Yisrael. They daven together Rosh Hashanah. They daven together Yom Kippur. This boy is flying high. And he says, how, you like? Yes, I love it. He says, you know what? Let's get you to yeshiva. So he takes him. He sends him off to Eshet Torah in Eretz Yisrael. And he starts learning, but you know what? He said it wasn't such a good fit. Howie's like a very spiritual, kind of meditating fellow. Eshet Torah, he said, was too intellectual for him. So they're looking around for another place. And the only thing that was spiritual enough to quell the desires of his soul was Chabad. And so he enrolled him in a Chabad yeshiva, and he started learning, and he's steiging, and he's growing, and he's becoming frum completely. And Rabbi Wallerstein goes back to America. And as he's in America, he gets a call from Howie. He's a rabbi. It's going amazing over here. I'm learning. I'm growing. Everything is incredible. And about, I don't know, it was maybe a year or so later, he gets a call. He says, Rabbi Wallerstein, you know, I'm getting to the age where thinking about shidduchim. Want to get married. He says, but how am I going to get married to a girl when I've got Buddha tattoos all over my arms, and I have a big one on my chest as well, not to mention the snakes that are coiling around my forearm? So I've always seen said, well, what are you doing over there? Nobody knows you have tattoos? He says, I wear a sweater every single day. And it wasn't even cold in the basement, could you imagine? I said, I wear a sweater every day. My sleeves are always down. I wear it all the way up to my neck. Nobody sees what's going on. He said, listen, Howie, you made it this far. You got to where you are right now in Yiddishkeit, in your religiosity, in your observance. He says, you know what? Let's leave it up to Hashem. There's a girl that's out there. The tattoos are not going to bother her. Let's leave it up to Hashem. About 6 months later, he gets a call. He says, Rabbi Wallerstein, the Rosh Hashiva of my yeshiva wants to make a shidduch between me and a girl from Kfar Chabad, which is the Chabad village in Yerushalayim, in Eretz Yisrael. Should I go for it? Go for it. He said, what about the tattoos? Don't worry about the tattoos. Hashem runs the world. He said, listen, you go out with her. If it goes well, don't say a word about the tattoos until you get to the 5th date. If you got to the 5th date, that means she likes you, and maybe she'll be able to see past the tattoos. Just keep wearing your long sleeves. Keep the jacket up to here. Don't let her see. They go out 1 time, 2 times. It's going amazing. The mom is falling for each other. After the 4th date, he calls Rabbi Wallerstein. Says, Rabbi Wallerstein, it's going great. It's really special. She's an amazing girl. She has no idea about the tattoos. What am I going to do? He said, listen, 5th date, next date. You got to tell her. I have to tell her. What, at the beginning of the date, the middle of the date, it was just whatever. Listen, let Hashem guide you. When it's time to tell her, you'll tell her. So he gets on the next date. He's nervous as could be because he's got to spill the beans over here that he's got Buddha tattoos on his body. They went on the date. Everything was going amazing. Didn't say at the beginning of the date. Didn't say at the middle of the date. They're now sitting in the car. It's the end of the date. Now, the boy calls Rabbi Wallerstein after the date crying, and he's saying, Hashem, I love Hashem. He's so amazing. Rabbi Wallerstein, I love you. You're so amazing. You don't imagine what Hashem did for me tonight. It's the end of the date. They're sitting in the car. And the young man, how he says to this girl, he says, you know, there's something that I really want to tell you. There's something I need to share with you. So now the girl's thinking to herself, wow, the date's going so well. Everything is so good. He probably wants to propose to me. So she's thinking right now that he's going to propose to her. And he says, you know what? It's not enough for me just to tell you how I feel. I want to show you. She's like, wow, he must have the ring in his pocket. He's going to propose to me right now and give you the ring. This is incredible. So suddenly he begins to take off his sweater. She's like, what's going on over here? And he pulls up his sleeve and he says, I can't keep this secret from you anymore. I have one tattoo of Buddha over here. I have another one on my arm over here. And I have one that runs across my chest. And before we can go further in the shidduch, I just had to let you know what I have. So she looks at him and she says, I don't see any tattoos. I don't see any of the tattoos that you're talking about. There's only one tattoo that I see. And that's the one that's on your heart. And it says, Yud, K, Vav, K, Hashem's name. And lo and behold, they got married. And they have beautiful children. And they moved to Bnei Brak. It sounds like he became like a major chassid in Bnei Brak. With his tattoos, with the Buddha, with everything, because the girl said, I don't look at all of that. I don't look at the red, hairy skin. I don't look at the Buddha tattoo. I look what's inside of your heart, and all I see is Hashem and purity, and that's what counts. Says Rav Hirsch, Esav Harasha at this moment in his life is not Esav Harasha. Esav allows himself to be in touch with his emotions, with his ruchnias, with his neshama, with who he really is. He's really the brother of Yaakov Avinu. He is the son of Yitzchak and the grandson of Avraham Avinu. And therefore, anyone that comes from that lineage, from that chain, from that stock, from that DNA, they're holy people, they're special people. And for one moment in his life, Vayichabchu, he hugs him. Vayishakeu, and he kisses him. Vayivchu, and they cry there together. Yaakov and Esav tears are real tears coming from the deepest place in his heart and his soul. Now, why is Yaakov crying? It doesn't say that Yaakov hugged him. It doesn't say that Yaakov kissed him. But it says that Yaakov was crying as well. Why is Yaakov crying? Says the Netziv on this pasuk over here. He says the following words. Vayivchu shnehem bachu, both Esav and Yaakov were crying. Ba'lilamed, it's coming to teach us. Shagam Yaakov nis'ayra alav l'shazu. At this moment, even Yaakov was awakened and aroused. Ava le'Esav, with love to Esav. At this moment, when he saw that Esav had purity in his heart, there was a real neshama that was inside, and he was acting like a yid, like Esav should have acted. Yaakov was running away in fear for all of those years, planning all these things with the initial meeting, to send the gifts, to send the messengers, to send the money, to hide his wives because he's afraid that Esav's going to kill them. Suddenly, Yaakov Avinu is aroused. He's awakened. He's inspired to love his brother. V'chein ledoros, and so too for all generations. B'shah shezarei Esav misayrim beruach tahara. Whenever the nation of Esav is awakened and they are inspired to the spirit of Tahara, purity, lahakir ezer Yisrael u'malosam, to see the wonders and the greatness of the Jewish people and all of their malosam, all of their strengths, We can also then recognize Esav, ki achenu, he's our brother. If Esav is acting as our brother, if Esav is getting down into his kishkas of who he really is, if Esav is pulling out the beautiful neshama, so then I will be Misaira, I will see the beauty that is in there as well. And this to me is a fascinating message that the Torah is saying over here. Esav is never hopeless. Esav is never gone. Esav, you never give up on, because deep down inside of every single Jew that is there, there is that pintel yid, that spark of the Jew, that if it will become awakened and aroused, and it will become ignited. You never know what it can become. And at the same time, Yaakov, Yisrael, Klal Yisrael, when you see a person in that situation as an Esav, and you can see the goodness that's inside of them, you can see the spark of Kedusha, holiness that is there, then it should allow you to have greater ava, greater love, and belief in them, and support of them, and acceptance of them, and allow them then to grow in the way that they can express their neshama properly. Every single Jew who comes from Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov has a beautiful neshama that's inside of them. Some of us just don't realize how beautiful it is. So we have to get in there, and every once in a while, it's ignited. The sparks come to life, the feelings, the hasaga, the ruchnius, the emotional spirituality, it becomes alive. And we have to catch those children at that time. We have to catch those Jews at that time. We have to see them for who they are. And we have to awaken and arouse our love on them as well. And if we would, then it won't be Esav Harasha. It won't be Howie, the Vilda Chaya. It won't be that kid that's off the derech legamri completely, has no shaykh, has no connection anymore to what Yiddishkeit is. If we'll see, and he'll be able to see the spark of Kedusha that's inside of him, and we will acknowledge that and help him to see it, then nobody has any idea how far that Jew, no matter how distant they are from the path of Yiddishkeit, nobody has any idea how close they could actually come. And I want to leave you off with a story. These stories they're almost too good for the Wednesday night shir. This should be for the drasha on Shabbos when they're sitting here in the hundreds, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. There is a 10th grade Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael who, besides being a Rebbe, is also a Gabbai Tzedakah. Gabbai Tzedakah means people deposit sums of money by him for tzedakah, and he has a special dispensation that he does. He gives it primarily to Yisayimim and Almanis, orphans and widows. And he's known to be an address that you can go to when you have money, 100 shekel, $100, $1,000, $2,000, and he collects and collects and collects and collects, doesn't keep a penny for himself for all of his hard work. And he knows the Yisayimim, he knows the Almanis, he knows the people that are in dire need, and in a very private and a modest way, he will give them the sums of money that they need to pay their rent, to buy their food, to make a chasana, to make a bar mitzvah, whatever it might be for. As a result of being such a successful Gabbai Tzedakah, very often he would have large sums of money in his apartment, sitting in a drawer, tucked away. So when he would need to go and use it, he would be able to go into the drawer, take the money, and go give it to who needed it at that time. Now, he never told anybody about this. However, if you have a brain, you could understand. He's a Gabbai Tzedakah. People are giving him money all day long. So most likely he's got maybe tens of thousands, about $100,000 at his disposal in his house. One night, as the family is already getting in bed, They hear banging on the door, and the next thing he knows, the door is being broken open. There are 5 thugs, robbers that are coming into the house with masks on their face. They quickly grab the wife and the children, they tie them up, and they throw them into the closet. And then they grab the rabbi and they say, listen, Rabbi, we know that you have lots and lots of money over here. Give us the money right now and show us where it is so we can take it and we'll get out of here. And he says to these bandits with their masks on their face, he says, I cannot tell you where the money is. And I cannot give you the money. It's not mine. It belongs to the Yisayimim and the Almanas. They're waiting for it. I can't give it to you. He said, listen, Rabbi, you don't seem to understand. You tell us where it is right now or we're going to start hurting you. And he said, I cannot tell you where the money is. It's not mine. It belongs to the Almanas and the Yisayimim. I cannot give it to you. It's their money. They said, Rabbi, I don't think that you understand what we're saying. And they give him a big punch in the face. And they said, and that's only the beginning. You tell us where the money is right now, we'll take it and we'll get out of here and we'll leave you and your family alone. And he says once again, I can't tell you where the money is. It's not mine to give. It belongs to the Yisayimim and the Almanas. No matter what you're going to do to me. So the main ringleader walks over and he says, Rabbi, you don't seem to understand what we are saying to you. And he pulls out of his pocket a large knife. And he's brandishing the knife and he says, listen to me. Either you're going to tell me where the money is and we're going to take it all and we're going to leave you alone, or this knife is going to go into you many times, Rabbi. You tell me, where is the money? And the rabbi says, I told you, I can't tell you where the money is. It's not mine to give. It belongs to the Almanas and the Yisayimim. And he says, I gave you a chance. And he takes the knife and he begins stabbing the rabbi, one after one after one. And with every stab, he's yelling, I'm not going to tell you where the money is. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the Yisayimim and the Almanas. And the guy stabs him 25 times. And when he pulls the knife out of him after the 25th time, the rabbi falls to the ground. He's oozing blood. He's mamish honestly about to die. But he wouldn't tell him where the money was. And the ringleader who stabbed him, he thought to himself, oh my gosh, this man is a tzaddik. This man is a tzaddik. I threatened him. I punched him. I pushed him. I stabbed him. I want to know where the money is. But he's such a tzaddik, he won't tell me because it belongs to the Yisayimim and the Almanas. Hashem, what did I just do? I killed a tzaddik. He picks the guy up. He rushes down to the getaway car. He puts him in the back seat and he floors it on the way to the hospital. He runs to the hospital. He's running and holding the rabbi in his arms and he says, help, help, a tzaddik is dying. Help, help, help. He runs in. The doctors see the man with blood stains all over, with stabbing, with wounds. They take him, they put him into the gurney, and they start taking him already. They're starting to clean things up and starting trying to stop the blood. And this thief who stabbed them, the murderer, is following the rabbi around everywhere the doctors take him. And suddenly the rabbi goes like this. And he calls the thief over. And he says, what? Holy tzaddik, what? What do you want from me? What? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What? He says, you're a tzaddik. I'm a tzaddik. I stabbed you 25 times. I tried to kill you. I tried to take the money. I'm a tzaddik. He said, you're a tzaddik. Because tonight, you were chayzer b'tshuva. You did tshuva tonight. Now listen to me. Run for your life. Before the police get here and they catch you, run for your life. You did tshuva? Get out of here now. And the murderer listening to the words of the tzaddik, runs out of the hospital and he runs for his life. The rabbi miraculously was healed, a refuah shlema. He walked out of the hospital on his own 2 feet and he went back to his life. And one day there's a knock on the door. And a very nice looking gentleman is standing there. And he sees the rabbi and he begins to cry. And he says, Rabbi, please forgive me. I'm sorry what I did to you. Please forgive me. He said, you're the one? Yes. I told you already. You're a tzaddik. You were chayzer b'tshuva. And you know what a tzaddik you are? You're going to become my chavrusa. We're going to learn Torah together. And this rabbi, who was able to see past the mask, past the screaming, past the knifing, past the stabbings, he was able to see the neshama that was inside that yid. They became chavrusas, and the man became a true Baal Tshuva, serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu, learning Torah, keeping Shabbos and mitzvahs and marriage and children and everything. Because as he was nis'ayre, as he was aroused to the feelings of tshuva, to get deep inside of himself what the neshama is really all about, the rabbi was aroused and awakened as well, and he saw the beauty of this man. He didn't see a murderer. He saw a tzaddik. We should be zeiche im Yetz Hashem, that we should have our own awakenings of our neshamas that are sometimes buried underneath all of the hairiness and the redness and the tumah and the impurities and our mistakes. We have to awaken our own neshamas. But when you see somebody else's neshama awaking and those sparks of kedusha are coming up, we have to be awakened as well and inspired and aroused to see them and to love them and to hug them and to kiss them and to bring them back to where they belong, which is to remind themselves that each and every single Jew is the offspring of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. That's in the DNA, that's in the kishkas, that's deep in our soul, and that's always going to be. And if we can help them recognize that, and they can see that and believe in that, then sky's the limit of what a Jew could accomplish and become in this world in their lifetime. We should be zeich only to simchas, to real spiritual growth, and we should reveal the sparks of kedusha in our neshama that are waiting to lighten and illuminate this world.